Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today I've got a Ruger LCP2 on the table, and this one's chambered in 22LR. It's their latest offering. With an MSRP of around $349 and a street price currently between $280 and $310, depending on where you look, this little guy is going to actually have some potential for a practice gun. 22LR is cheaper than $380. There's a couple drawbacks to it, but overall it's quite a nice gun. It holds 10+1. It does only come with one magazine, and the magazines fit in well, and they blend in well, and the stippling and pattern follows all the way around on the mag. So they're well designed. Now, only coming with one mag is a bit of a disadvantage, but the mags are readily available. A local viewer lent us this one, and he bought 4 or 5 mags, so he's got half a dozen mags, and he can have them all preloaded, ready to go to the range. As Ruger typically goes, there's a number of safeties. You have the split trigger, which prevents an inertial pull during a drop. It has a hammer catch. It has a thumb safety. And it has a magazine disconnect. Ruger says that this can be dry-fired, but as with 22s, I always say don't make it a dry-fire practice gun. It's not good for 22, but if you accidentally dry-fire it, you're not going to damage it, you're not going to break it. Of course, you can only dry-fire it with an empty magazine in it, because of the magazine disconnect. It's got nice serrations, and they've got this slide that they're kind of really talking about how easy it is to rack. That's one of their selling points on it, and as you can see, it is. It's very easy to rack, and it's got little wings here at the back. It's almost hard to see. It's the last serration is just extended a little bit, and it makes a wing, so it makes it really easy to get a hold of. So it's really easy to operate. Of course, most 22s are fairly light. This one is right around the average of the rest of them. And one thing you probably noticed as I was cycling it, the stainless steel barrel that sticks out right now, that's 2.75 inches long, kind of looks like a little cannon. And of course the bore is only 22, but it's a bull barrel, and it just kind of looks like a baby cannon. It's a kind of interesting little barrel. And as I mentioned, the barrel is stainless steel, the slide is stainless, and the frame is polymer. So it's overall a well-designed gun. It's very comfortable. You only get a 2-finger grip, but at no point do you feel that you're going to lose control over it. It's going to get away from you, especially in 22. There's virtually no recoil. And it has a very nice trigger, which I'll show you in a little bit. And on the other side of it, there are no controls. The safety on this side works where you push forward to fire. So it's fairly easy if you got the safety on and you grab the gun to thumb forward to put it into fire. It's a little more difficult to get it to go back with your thumb. You kind of have to just grab it from the side and pull it back. So engaging the safety is a fairly deliberate act. Disengaging the safety, it's easy to thumb it forward. It does lock back on the last round. And of course, if you pull the magazine, then it'll cycle freely. So I'm going to show you the trigger. Despite the fact that this can be dry-fired, we don't own this gun, and the policy is never to dry-fire a gun that we don't own, so I'm going to put a snap cap in it. There's a decent amount of take-up. It's very light and it's very smooth. Relatively short break, right in the 5 to 6 pound territory. Reset is basically all the way out, and it does bounce off the reset a little bit, so there's more take-up after the reset. And by all the way out, it's back to the take-up. You don't have to go all the way out like you would on a revolver, but when you do cycle it, you're basically back to the same spot you would have been had you let it all the way out and done the take-up. So it's not necessarily a short reset, and it does have an over-travel stop. Right there, it's molded into the bottom of the trigger guard. So it's a very cool, well-designed gun. The sights are probably the biggest negative. They do exist, but only really in name. The rear sights and the front sight are molded into the upper part of the slide. They are serrated for glare reduction, but they disappear at the range. We found it very, very difficult to figure out where we were aiming this thing. Now, a lot of times what you'll get with these guns is the argument is that they're belly guns. They're not meant to be sighted, they're just meant to be pointed in a direction and shot. Well, this would not be what I would consider a good defensive gun anyway, not because the gun's not good, but 22 is not a reliably firing cartridge. We were using CCI and Winchester Super X. We had at least 2 failed fires with the Super X, But I'm not going to blame the gun, because I looked at the the ejected shell, and it had smacked the rim pretty good. So 22 itself is just not reliable enough for self-defense. So you would want sights that you could actually practice with, that you could learn how to aim, learn how to line up the sights, and then once you learn how to line up the sights, you can extend that into just popping up and firing, just sighting and firing. So I do wish it had better sights. Now you could paint a white dot on them, but with the ridges, your dots are going to be fuzzy. So the only way really to get good sights on this would be to use a drill press to drill it. Drill a little hole in the middle of it that you can fill with the paint to avoid it just kind of spreading out and becoming a splotch. The sights are probably the only thing I would say is truly a negative on this gun, is that they're not very effective, not very easy to use. Now I think they are targeting this to be possibly a backup gun. It does come with a little holster, and it will fit anything that the LCP2 fits in. So holsters, accessories, anything that works on the LCP2, of course except the magazines, will work with this gun. And it does come with this little loader. The feed lips on the magazines are a little bit on the bitey side. They're kind of sharp at the edges, so when you're loading them, if you're loading them by hand, just thumbing the rounds in, it has a tendency to bite your fingers. But either this loader, which is okay, or the little mini Lula loader will work to load these magazines. And if you're going to do a lot of loading on these, you're going to want something, otherwise you're going to end up with your fingertips all chewed up. Ergonomically, the gun is easy to live with, it's easy to hold, the magazine release works well, it is only on the one side, but it's comfortable and easy to use, and dimensionally it's small. It's 5.2 inches long front to back, it's 4 inches tall, and it's only 0.81 inches thick. So overall it's a quite small gun, the LCP2s are, and at 11.2 ounces it's one of the lighter guns out there. So from a standpoint of moving this thing around and working with it, other than the small size, it's actually pretty easy to live with the thing. I'll go ahead and take it apart. There is one negative when it comes to taking it apart, is you do need to use a tool to pull this thing up. So let me go ahead and get a hold of my tool. And you can take it apart just the way it is, but I find if you pull the slide back just a hair, it takes a little tension off this, and I can use like a channel cleaning tool to pop this button up, pull it out, and then it just comes apart. So here's the slide. It has a single non-captive guide rod and spring, but it is actually really easy to get this back together. I'll show you that when I go to put it back together. A nicely machined barrel. The guide rod is metal on that. And in typical with Ruger, their machining is usually really good. This little baby cannon barrel is well machined. It does have 6-groove rifling. It's kind of hard to see with the light because everything's shiny and silver in there, but it is nicely rifled. And the barrel locks up nice and tight. The slide is well machined and quite simple. There's not much going on in there. There is no piston style drop safety like you'll have in many guns. All of the safety functions are built into the fire control group, which is here in the grip. And of course the safeties are down inside there, you won't be able to see them. But one thing you will be able to see is it's got nice long rails. They're basically full-length rails. And full length on this side, except for a little cutout for the slide stop slide release. So overall it's a well-designed gun and real solid. The LCP2s are actually known to be quite reliable. They tend to work, and they tend to work well, and they tend to hold up well. Some of the littler guns tend to be short usage. You're not going to get a lot of miles out of them. The LCP2s are not known for that. Line the spring up. It's a light enough spring that it doesn't try to wiggle or twist. It goes right back together. Line it back up. Now you do have to pull it back. You can see something moving in the hole. That's part of the barrel. You need to pull it back just far enough that barrel hook is out of the way. The bar you see is the retention spring. You just kind of push this in over the spring, snap it in, and you're back together. So overall, other than the fact you have to use some sort of tool to pop this out, and yes, in theory you could use your fingernails if you don't like your fingernails. It's in there good. There's a little bit of a ridge on there that spring drops into, and it is not going to fall out. So unlike that little Remington, where if you have it on its side as you cycle it, the pin will fall out. These won't do that. That pin will only come out if you want it out and you pop it out. So you don't have to worry about it coming apart while you're actually using it. Other than that, there's really not much to the little guy. There's even details like serrations on the front of the trigger guard, so they kind of covered all the things you would see at a more robust gun. Overall, it's easy to shoot comfortably, but not easy to shoot well. And really that's only because of the sights. I think if this had sights that were easier to see, and of course the silver barrel sitting there kind of sticks up a little bit, so it kind of obscures the sight picture a little further. If this had decent sights, I would say that it's probably got accuracy potential. Nothing leads me to believe that this isn't going to be able to group well if you could figure out where you were pointing the thing. But beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell up there to get notified if you do. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, kind of all over the place. Thank you.
So, 9mm or more.